Welcome back to World According to Briggs and a look at the Sunshine State, Florida. If you don't know where it is on a map, here you go. Florida is the second most southern state, Hawaii being the most south state we have. The Sunshine State is 22nd in area and 3rd in population with just over 23 million residents, and almost 80% of them live in coastal communities. They have a lot of coastline here. Now there's several ways to measure the coastline, but if you include bays and inlets, Florida has the second most coastline in the US behind Alaska, which is 34,000 miles versus Florida's 8,400 miles. And that's where Florida's problem is. The ocean is Florida's greatest asset and its biggest financial threat. As the climate changes, storms and flooding are becoming more frequent and more destructive. With much of the state sitting at or near sea level, the risk isn't hypothetical. It's built into the geography. And that is the root of their biggest financial threat. Let's take a look at how. Number 10, hurricanes and deductibles. Like I'd said, the ocean is rising due to climate change. It's not a theory, it's a fact. It's in the math. The Earth has done this many times before. It gets colder until we have an ice age, then it starts getting warmer, like right now. And when the ice melts, oceans rise slowly. It'll take thousands of years before someone's beachfront property goes underwater. So save that comment. Now with storms like that, and as they get stronger and more frequent, they're gonna cost more money. Insurance companies know this, and they charge accordingly. Most homeowners understand deductibles the way they understand car insurance. A few $1,000s, annoying but manageable. Florida's hurricanes rewrite that understanding entirely. Hurricane deductibles are percentage based, usually between 2 and 10% of the home's insured value. That's not a market value. That's what the insurance company decides replacement costs should be each year. A $350,000 insured home, your deductible is anywhere from $7,000 to $35,000. A $600,000 insured home is anywhere from $12,000 to $60,000 deductible. People don't go bankrupt because of the storm, they go bankrupt because the deductible wipes out savings before repairs even begin. Florida has the highest annual premiums in the country, with the average being about $7,200. The next closest is Louisiana with $5,800 a year. Number 9, flood insurance. Flood insurance is not about what happens to your house, it's about what risk models say might happen to everyone like you. Updated flood maps, sea level projections, and FEMA risk-based pricing models mean homeowners wake up one year in a higher risk zone without moving an inch. The result? Mandatory flood insurance for homes that never needed it before, premiums jumping up hundreds or thousands per year, coverage limits staying flat while costs rise. Many coastal homeowners now pay $3,000 to $12,000 annually just for flood insurance. That's not a luxury add-on, folks. That's the price of existing near water. And no, skipping flood insurance isn't an option if you have a mortgage. It's required. The ocean and insurance companies enforce compliance every single year. Number 8, post-storm rebuilding costs. This is something you need to consider because insurance never seems to fully cover everything. After a hurricane, Florida becomes an economic feeding frenzy. Contractors are booked solid, materials are scarce, labor costs spike, permits slow everything down. Insurance adjusters argue while your house sits half exposed to humidity. Now, in case you don't know, insurance payouts are usually based on pre-storm labor rates, pre-storm material costs, standardized pricing formulas. Reality after a storm looks nothing like the spreadsheet. Homeowners routinely find themselves $20,000 to $50,000 short on basic repairs, paying out of pocket just to make the home livable again, waiting months for reimbursement if it even comes. During that wait, people pay for hotels, short-term rentals, storage units, and duplicate utility bills. The storm doesn't just damage a house, it doubles living expenses. Number 7, property taxes. Florida cities aren't optional participants in climate adaptation. They either invest or they drown slowly. This costs money. They gotta raise property taxes, all to get you seawalls, stormwater pumps, raised roads, drainage systems, shoreline reinforcement, to name a few. And how do they pay for it? Higher property taxes, special assessments, and infrastructure fees that never sunset. Even residents far from the beach pay more because coastal property tax bases must be protected. The ocean raises the taxes whether it reaches your street or not. If you think that taxes aren't going to continue to rise as these hurricanes become more and more powerful, you're fooling yourself. Insurance isn't here to help you, it's here to make money. It's a company. You want help? Go to the local church or Goodwill or something, because insurance companies aren't your friend. Number 6, mental stress that costs you money. Now this one doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, but it absolutely affects your money. Living near the ocean in Florida means tracking storms every day, planning evacuations, worrying about power loss, checking tides and flooding forecasts, stress spending on preparation and repairs. That constant vigilance changes behavior. People over-prepare, they buy extra supplies, generators, and upgrades, delay travel or cancel plans, spend more just in case, avoid being away from home too long. Stress becomes part of the cost of living, and stress almost always leads to higher spending, worse decisions, and faster burnout, especially for retirees who move to Florida for peace. You also have to worry about roads buckling from flooding and salt intrusion, corroded pipes and sewer systems, storm drains that clog instantly, bridges and causeway require frequent repairs, and you gotta know which ones are being repaired this week if you're getting around. And by the way, Florida has water everywhere. There's a bridge everywhere to go over that water. And the salt air is no joke. I grew up in a beach community, 3 blocks off the beach most of my life. I'd say within a mile of the beach most of my life, but at times I was like 3 blocks off the beach, and everything you own gets rusty. It's corrosion. Salt air corrodes everything. Anything that's metal that you're not on top of all the time, you're going to replace within a couple years. This was really bad back in the 1960s and 70s, 80s even, when cars were made of metal. You know, the outside would be corroded constantly. Paint gets dull quicker. Salt air is no joke. Number 5, pre- and post-storm finances. When your house is in the path of a hurricane, there are some things you need to consider. The first one, of course, is why the hell did I choose to live in Florida? The second thing usually is based around finances and time. Like, you're gonna miss some work. If you're a salaried employee, this isn't much of a thing, but for most Americans, a good-sized hurricane can lead to a lot of missed hours that could be days worth or weeks worth. In some cases, you might have to pack up what you can and flee the area. This costs more money you hope your insurance company will cover. Then, of course, you got to board up your windows, get sandbags, and again, these are things you hope your insurance company will pay for, which if you go someplace, you got to end up at a hotel, maybe rent a U-Haul. Then, of course, you have to deal with the post-storm. After a hurricane, homeowners learn the hard way. Flood damage and wind damage costs money. Mold coverage is capped or excluded. Roof damage gets blamed on age. Water intrusion gets blamed on maintenance. You can be insured, compliant, and fully paid up and still owe tens of thousands of dollars because damage falls into the gaps between policies. Insurance doesn't protect outcomes, it protects clauses. If you think insurance is going to pay for something and maybe you'll come out ahead, you're living in a fantasy land, and I can tell you right now, there's a better chance of you getting a scholarship to Hogwarts. Insurance companies don't deny claims, they just redefine reality until the claim disappears. I was reading stories about insurance companies and situations homeowners have run into in Florida over the years while I was researching this. One guy said, hurricanes don't destroy homes, insurance fine print does. Number 4, condo and HOA special assessments. We all know HOAs are the worst thing to happen to American communities since they were spraying DDT around our neighborhoods trying to kill mosquitoes. But in Florida, it's a different kind of animal. It's even worse. Condos near the coast are ground zero for post-storm financial chaos. After hurricanes, HOAs face structural inspections, roof replacements, seawall reinforcement, code upgrades, and they always seem to have reserve funds that are never enough. Homeowners get hit with $15,000 to $50,000 special assessments, often due in months, not years. Retirees and fixed income owners don't have that kind of money laying around. A lot of people end up selling their condo because they can't afford special assessments. Usually they sell at a loss because it's coming with that $50,000 price tag or $15,000, and they usually go into a market full of other forced sellers. One thing leads to another and your retirement on the beach is gone. Dreamt about it it, paid for it all those years, and now it's gone because a hurricane happened to land on your balcony. Now, are you going to get hit with a hurricane every single year? No, but in the decade leading up to late 2025, what we're in right now, Florida experienced a historically active period with at least 9 hurricane landfalls from 2016 to late 2025. This includes major Category 3 plus storms like Irma in 2017, Michael in 2018, Ian in 22, and Idalia in 2023. They're getting more frequent and they're getting stronger. Now, one of the worst hurricanes to ever hit Florida happened in 1992. Hurricane Andrew. Andrew killed 26 people in Florida, went on to kill over 65 across the whole affected region, and it cost $27 billion in damages. That would be about $63 billion today. Number 3, home values that quietly stop climbing. For decades, Florida real estate followed one formula. Buy near the water, wait, get rich. Hurricanes were treated like an inconvenient pause. Expensive, messy, but temporary. Roofs got fixed, insurance checks showed up, and prices marched upward like nothing ever happened. That formula is breaking. Not with a crash, not with panic, but quietly, inside insurance renewals, inspection reports, and price cuts nobody brags about. Insurance used to be a footnote in Florida. Now it's the headline. After a big storm, premiums don't creep up like we've already discussed. Resale used to be Florida's safety net. If costs got crazy, you could always sell to the next dreamer. After a hurricane, that confidence fades. Buyers now think about their exit plan before they even unpack. Offers come in lower, inspections get aggressive, concessions become standard, bidding wars quietly turn into negotiations just to keep deals alive. And yes, homes still sell. That's the confusing part. Florida didn't fall apart, but listings sit longer, price reductions happen quietly, appreciation isn't automatic anymore, and in some areas it's sliding backwards without making news. No collapse, just stagnation. The slow kind that makes everyone uncomfortable. In this new reality, Florida home values aren't just about location and square footage. They're about insurance availability, flood risk, financing friction, and how much uncertainty a buyer is willing to tolerate. Florida real estate isn't dead, not by a long shot, but the easy money era, it's fading. Owning paradise now requires spreadsheets, not optimism, and a lot of faith that sunshine fixes everything. They still got a lot of sunshine. Number 2, disaster aid that isn't much. When hurricanes hit, a lot of homeowners make the same assumption. Someone is going to step in and make this hurt less. Insurance companies will cover it. FEMA will help. The system will work. You'll be inconvenienced, not financially altered. That assumption collapses fast. FEMA isn't a blank check. It never was. It exists to keep disaster zones from turning into humanitarian crisis, not to make people whole again. The assistance is limited, tightly capped, and designed to stabilize, not restore. If you're picturing FEMA writing in with a giant check that puts your life back the way it was, that fantasy usually lasts until the paperwork starts. And that paperwork is slow, painfully slow. While homeowners are dealing with mold, damaged roofs, and displaced families, FEMA's timelines move at a government speed. Weeks turn into months, decisions get appealed, requests get partially approved or denied outright. Meanwhile, the bills don't wait. And here's the thing people don't tell you about. A lot of that aid comes as a loan, not a grant, a loan, as in money you pay back with interest after you've already lost your property value, paid deductibles, and watched your insurance premiums double. FEMA assistance often doesn't reduce financial stress. It rearranges it into a longer, more permanent problem. That's why most rebuilding doesn't actually come from federal help. It comes from insurance and hopefully enough to get you semi back to normal. After that, you're dipping into savings, then going into debt, maybe some credit card, home equity line, personal loans, retirement accounts get cracked open, the rebuild happens, but the balance sheet never fully recovers. It isn't until after the hurricane, usually a few months, homeowners realize they weren't rescued, they were stabilized. The lights come back on, the house becomes livable again, and the system considers that a success. But the long-term costs, you got higher debt, higher insurance, lower resale value, that's all on the homeowner. That's the uncomfortable truth about getting aid from the government. FEMA keeps things from getting worse. That's it. All right, before we get to number one, if you're thinking about moving out of Florida or into Florida or any place in the United States, there's a link in the description area for a really good website called Home and Money. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number one. And number one, the Ocean's financial subscription. This is the cost nobody includes in the Zillow estimate. Living near the ocean in Florida isn't a one-time purchase. It's a reoccurring charge that never stops, never locks in, and never gets cheaper. There's no paid-off moment. No victory lap, just an annual reminder that paradise runs on auto-renew. The first thing, of course, is the insurance. We've already covered it. The premiums always go up and they offer less every single year, it seems. Then, of course, you've got the taxes. Local governments don't like raising taxes, but they really don't like rebuilding roads, seawalls, and drainage systems without funding. So property taxes creep upward, special assessments appear, and temporary fees stick around permanently. Coastal living means helping pay for infrastructure that's constantly under threat of being destroyed again. Maintenance becomes its own budget category. Salt air eats everything, roofs age fast, HVAC systems die young, windows, foundations, landscaping, nothing lasts as long as it should when you live near the ocean. Even when storms miss you, the ocean still collects through corrosion, wear, and constant repairs that never quite end. Then, of course, there's the stress, where that's not coming out of your checking account, but it absolutely affects your decisions. Watching every forecast, wondering if there's a storm, keeping evacuation plans updated, bracing for insurance emails after every single hurricane season. That mental load has a cost, even if accountants pretend it doesn't. Finally, there's risk, the kind that compounds over time. Every year you stay, your exposure grows. Insurance gets harder to replace, buyers get more cautious, selling becomes slower and more expensive, and leaving isn't easy because higher costs and rising risk don't increase demand, they reduce it. You don't pay the ocean once, you pay it forever. And the longer you stay subscribed, the harder it becomes to cancel. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Let me know in the comment section below. How'd you like it? What'd you think? Everyone have a great day. Be nice to each other.